This program is brought to you exclusively by Bintu Report. Sarawak, the largest region in Malaysia with its vast natural resources, rich cultural heritage, known for its commodity exports, is a promising land of opportunity. But in the past, ambitious professionals have left the region, finding it challenging for their career prospects. But now, Sarawak has set its sights on being the second highest contributor to Malaysia's gross domestic product, GDP, aligning with the nation's goal of achieving a high-income status.
The high-income part is a very difficult part, meaning from 130 over billion GDP, total GDP, to 280 billion. Is a big jump. Myself and the rest of my cabinet have that feeling and confidence we can achieve it with that 282 billion.
Where we place ourselves will be very important, and Sarawak is the first state with the climate change law, the first state that amended land code for carbon trading.
Who's in the driver's seat, steering Sarawak towards uncharted territories?
So you are the machine to achieve that, and I am the driver.
From a branding perspective, I think the Premier has done more than any single component of us, because he's the great marketeer for all of this.
How is InvestSarawak leading the way on Decimal Point? There's a lot of hype in investing in Sarawak today, so why not start with a few interesting numbers? Do you know that in 2023, Sarawak's GDP grew by 1.2%, making it the fourth largest contributor to Malaysia's gross domestic product, GDP. And interesting to note, Sarawak places itself as the fourth highest in Malaysia in terms of GDP per capita, standing at 72,411 ringgit. Sarawak even outperformed the national level of 54,612. This exhilarating news drove us to find out what's more for InvestSarawak, only on Decimal Point. We all know that InvestSarawak is done to spearhead investments coming into Sarawak, and the word InvestSarawak itself is already big. So, as a person who spearheaded InvestSarawak in the beginning, maybe you could share your journey into it and what is the actual role of InvestSarawak in bringing foreign direct investment.
2021, I think the Premier announced the setup of InvestSarawak as part of the PCDS 2030 initiative, right? All in the context of ease of doing business. So always remember this word, ease of doing business, right? And then we will come back to that a bit later. And 2022 is when we started to incorporate the setup. And 2023, August, is when we started the official operationalization of InvestSarawak. And that's also when I was employee number 1. All right, so that's how it started. Today we have 13 strong. We will be growing, obviously. If you look at a setup like InvestKL, for instance, they have about 30 or 40 people. I always look at it this way, right? Sarawak is almost as big as the whole peninsula minus just Malacca. And if you talk about per square foot development, aren't we supposed to have a lot more people, right? So we're very, very lean, almost skeleton to that nature. But yes, we're starting off lean, we're starting off small, but we're trying to execute big. So this is how, just a little bit on the backdrop of how InvestSarawak started. Ease of doing business, and in many contexts, it's just not around it's not just around applications is just not around approvals. It's around the whole investment journey for investors. Even before they are your investors, you should already start looking at it. And that's what we hope to do. The entire experience, end to end. Right? So that's how I envision it, at least, or how I interpret what the Premier actually is looking forward to, of what InvestSarawak will be doing. And of course, we are that window for investors, and we are looking forward to deliver that piece for the state of Sarawak.
Now, touching on InvestSarawak being the window, and you mentioned on the ease of doing business.
Our role is to attract, to bring. That's only step one. Right?
Yes.
Getting people to look your way is not difficult. It's easy. Then it comes to what happens when you come down to Sarawak. That's the experience that what will really matter, will close the deal is that part. Right? So attracting is like all IPAs. Everybody goes on trade shows, investor road shows, all that. But it's the subsequent follow-through, the meetings, the information you provide, the hand-holding throughout, not just when they sign on the dotted line, it even goes beyond. How we do that measure is quite simple. If 15, 20 years down the road and the company is still there, we've done our job, right? It means the model is sustainable. We have gone through filtering the right kind of investments to come into Sarawak. And just to answer that question on foreign direct investments, we are not just handling foreign direct investments, we are handling all investors.
I mean, with the buzz of the foreign direct investments as well. And you mentioned earlier, I mean, we had a chat before starting the session on measuring, investments. And we know that InvestSarawak is utilizing on digitalization into measuring and also keeping up into your investments. So how do you keep about on it and tracking it? I mean, what's the model that you use coming from the CEO itself?
Sarawak only has like 2.8 million population. And we are looking at working population of close to 1.5, about there. And not everybody is in the things that we do, right? So building the talent pool may not be as easy, but in view that even if we do have the existing talent pool today, with the ambitions that we have, it will never be enough. So you have to rely on efficiency, you have to rely on technology to be able to reach that. So as an investment promotion agency for the state of Sarawak, we have to show that example ourselves. Hopefully 40 people being able to deliver more than the 40 because of the systems in place. Digitization is one very key component. The Premier has been very adamant about talking about it all the time. But you have to then truly appreciate how it works in the context of investment promotion, right? Targeting investors, trolling for information. When you start evaluating companies, bear in mind Sarawak handles, look at what we have around us, Japanese, Koreans, Chinese, right, among others. All these news and insights are usually in their local languages. So without the aid of technology, I don't suppose I can be hiring a translator. And even if I do hire a translator, they may not be able to translate the right things for me that I want to know about these companies. So with the help of technology, right, I think we will be able to achieve that, at least to a certain level. We are already starting to talk to rating agencies, the existing ones, I cannot name them, but we're talking to a few of them, to incorporate not just from the financial perspective, but also all the other intangibles that come along with the investments. Things like emissions, things like carbon. What is the decarbonization plan? What's the social cost of these companies coming in? Is there actual benefit to the local economy? So these are all the things that we have to juggle, we have to filter to get the right kind of investor to come to Sarawak. Like I said, Sarawak is not short of investors, but we need the right growth partners. I think that is the key.
Quick fact, in 2023, Sarawak's economy was mainly driven by the services sector, which accounted for 38.3%. The manufacturing sector at 26.5%, the mining and quarrying sector at 20.8%, agriculture 10.6%, and construction sector made up 3.6%. Right, to evolve this, how is InvestSarawak driving the development of key investment projects through strategic partnerships and initiatives? Right, Timothy, so we know that, the competition and everyone is running and vying, for investments, money is everywhere. So, what is the establishment of InvestSarawak coming through this and also to cater to this global competition for investments in Sarawak?
We talked about, okay, what's the value difference between Invest Penang, Invest KL, Invest Selangor? To me, all of those things are irrelevant, right? We are competing with Singapore. We're competing with Indonesia. The strength of every one of us will build that collective strength for Team Malaysia. I think people need to understand that. It's not a competition between states. That's not right? I would rather say bring the ecosystem here than to let it go somewhere else. That should be the mindset. It could be potions in Penang, potions here in Sarawak, potions in Johor, but it's kept in Malaysia. I think that, to me, is the key. You need to see where your strengths are and not just compete on the sectors that you want. Everybody wants everything, right? But what we want to do is to make sure that when we pick those things, it's sustainable, long term, and it plays on our strength. And bear in mind, our strength today is renewable energy. You can look around the region. There's no single country around this region that would have 70% renewable energy mix. Stable base load, by the way, not just solar everywhere. China has been probably in the forefront of deploying a lot of these renewable energy. But look at where they are. 30% renewables and 70% is still coal.
Yes.
So you tell me where the proposition is for Sarawak. That will be one of the key ones.
I see. And you mentioned earlier, I mean, on each state, vying for competition, each state to bring out the best, aside from natural resources, what's there for Sarawak to offer? As we all know that Sarawak is the top investment destination for all. In your opinion, I mean, what can you say about that?
I think we are in that global understanding that the domestic market is not enough. And to me, it's a blessing, because if you have a very huge population like Indonesia, you will think in first, out later. But here in Sarawak, we have such a small population, small market, that everything you do is always export. What that means is you have to be linked to the global competition, and you have to play by the rules. And I think this is why Sarawak is in the forefront for a lot of these kind of new initiatives, is because this is where the world is moving. The trajectory is going to be only that direction. Where we place ourselves will be very important. And Sarawak is the first state with the climate change law, the first state that amended land code for carbon trading, the first state that of many things, including hydrogen on ground, right? That is very important on ground. So a lot of these things are very important to build that preposition. People tend to ask me that question over and over again about, wow, is hydrogen really viable?
The perception.
Me, again, I say, is irrelevant. Why? Look at the buzz that we are getting from just doing hydrogen.
Yes.
Look at the buzz of us getting involved in hydrogen. Look at our international recognition by just getting in the forefront, acknowledging something before it comes. There's no point jumping going on a bandwagon, right? When everybody is doing it, then there's nothing unique.
Correct.
Yes. But from a branding perspective, I think the Premier has done more than, and any single component of us, because he's the great marketeer for all of this.
Yes.
And the key is not just about the talk, it's about the walk.
And then you mentioned, we spoke on, embarking on renewable energy and also in the green agenda. And Sarawak is definitely getting a lot of traction and recognition, recently being also cited by Bloomberg. I mean, in your opinion, for Invest Sarawak, how do you promote yourself or Sarawak's investment, towards the world and to market it out?
A lot of things do come when they understand that you understand what it takes to play into their supply chain.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, in February this year, when we officially launched Invest Sarawak, 17 of the EU ambassadors came, right? That signifies something. We hosted 2 delegations, business delegation from the US, and it's the first time in 60 years that there's a business delegation that actually came to Sarawak. Okay? So when you look at all these signs and all that, you're starting to see that we're not just getting interest from domestic players, regional players, but international players, right? And I can tell you one of the largest chemical company will be coming to Sarawak for a site visit and etc. So the quality of these kind of investors is very critical, right? Because it doesn't just affect the branding of the state as a whole, but it affects how you develop the supply chain and how all your SMEs and mid-sized companies will follow. Because you don't want them when these companies leave and these guys have nothing to do. But if they build their own capabilities by leveraging on the foreign direct investment, that is where we have done our job in terms of elevating the local economy. I think that's, to me, is the primary focus. True to the words of what the YB Premier has mentioned over and over again, if Sarawak does well, Malaysia does better. So I don't think it's fair to say where InvestSarawak is heading. I think collectively where Sarawak is heading will be the right analogy.
We've heard from InvestSarawak on the exciting mission that comes with high expectation and a positive impact to the community in job creation, sustainable development, economic growth and diversification.
So it's always about partnership. If you want exponential growth, it's about working the right parties, bringing the right parties into play to help you catapult yourself to where you want to be. And there is a common shared responsibility for all the partners to do something like that. They are not just investors.
Now, you also touch on growth partners, and getting the right investors is crucial. So in InvestSarawak, we know that you're doing matching also as well. Maybe you could share also more on how do you identify the common goal, the common growth of investments, per se.
So you have companies that want to come in, for example, to leverage on the natural resources that we have, the energy situation that we do possess. But there's also another element, like who is going to be doing it locally for them as partners, right? Whether it's in terms of mobilizing feedstock materials, building that facilities together with them. These are all the things that you would know if you have a deeper understanding on each project. And our role is to not just evaluate those projects, filter them, but also to look at where Sarawakian companies can position themselves and benefit from it. If not Sarawakians, then Malaysian companies come in and do it. So I think it's always about a collective good, right? True to the words of what the YB Premier has mentioned over and over again, if Sarawak does well, Malaysia does better. It is just that. And for us, we cannot just put ourselves, in what we call an aquarium and thinking that we are going to achieve what we want to achieve without having anybody to assist and help.
Yes.
We don't just need technology, we need funding, we need, access to market. There's a slew of things that we need.
InvestSarawak, having its initiative, what does it contribute as of now, as we know in other thriving sectors apart from green energy, in the economic growth of the region?
The problem we have is we have to cover everything, every investment that comes into Sarawak. I think that's also why when we talk about one-stop center, it will have to be covering all. It cannot be just, I'm just looking at the manufacturing base or renewable energy. It must be everything. And that's why you become that window for everything. I'm a strong believer in everything that is within government is government. So investors shouldn't have to go through the whole cycle of understanding government before they come and invest. They should come to one place to understand how things work.
Agreed.
And we manage the internal stakeholder engagement. One of the key things that was mentioned by the chairman of our board, which is the Premier himself, is that when he started seeing the roles of InvestSarawak, they immediately pointed out there was this thing that's missing, and that is the approval, right? And that's what garnered a lot of interest from other IPAs coming to us saying that, hey, I want to see how you guys are going to do this piece. For me, you have to get away from that idea that approval doesn't mean that InvestSarawak is doing all the approvals. It just means that you only come to one place to seek all the approvals required and let us help to manage all the other stakeholders as well. That becomes then that one place. It's impossible for InvestSarawak or any single government entity to be the unilateral approving body.
I see, and also we know that in the DNA of InvestSarawak, when you talk about people, the people behind InvestSarawak, they're all young and fresh. What would you say in what brought you to inspire yourself into bringing this team? We all know that quality is over quantity, into bringing this team and making it the DNA of InvestSarawak and moving forward in InvestSarawak's initiatives in its job creation as well?
Many governments, not just the Malaysian government or the local government, we tend to say, well, let's move to the area of high value jobs, creation, all that. But you're telling companies to do it, and if you don't, then we say, why are we the only ones doing it? So if you are looking at that perspective, we should practice that ourselves. And of course, one of the things that intrigues me about coming back to lead InvestSarawak is that I was given, the trust to build everything from scratch, to not have a baggage around inheriting something, right? So I sat there and I start thinking like, what do I want that to be, right? I want InvestSarawak to be the preferred employer in Sarawak, among other things, but also one that appeals to our younger generation, because that's the group that will help us to see through a lot of the plans. One of the reasons why we opted for a much younger group, of course, they have all different specialization and all that, but for all the things that the state is trying to do, there's not many subject matter experts anywhere in the world, not just in Sarawak that you don't have it. So the critical thing is the approach towards something, the attitude, the so-called the vibe that investors feel when they are dealing with you. And I think that's what we want, right? We get a lot of feedback from investors, potential investors as well, saying that we kind of like this kind of young, dynamic, can-do attitude, right, among you guys. That's one of the things. Incentives, fiscal incentives, otherwise, everywhere's the same, right? You can give 10 years, Singapore can give 10. Indonesia can do the same. The difference is the people.
For a big leap to happen, Sarawak needs to identify and invest in emerging technologies and business opportunities. Diversifying its economy is crucial to reduce dependency on traditional industries. So what's more for Sarawak? How are we towards achieving the KPI of this investment?
3 to 5 years is what it takes to start from project conceptualization to deployment. Look at the hydrogen project. It started in 2019. Today we're in 2024. Fast forward, right? It's not going to happen overnight. You're putting billions into something that you don't know. It's an unknown, right? So when you have unknowns, I don't expect the whole decision-making process to be that straightforward. So it's always hard. But when something is hard and is complicated, is what you want. Because otherwise they can just pack and go. That's what I don't want.
Wow.
Right? So in all, PCDS provides us with a target, I will tell you that. 40 billion ringgit by 2030 cumulative investments, that's the target. Of that, 20% of our GNI will eventually come from digital investments. That's the target, right? So investors will have to be everywhere doing all those things. I had one of the forums where people asked me around, okay, are you only helping bigger companies or not? I said, well, the way I look at it, whoever walks through the InvestSarawak door, everyone will get the same resource from InvestSarawak. So we're not going to see just because you're a multinational, we're going to spend more time on you.
No.
Even if you're a small company, you come to us. If we can help, we will help. So I think that's how we're going to drive.
So what is InvestSarawak providing? What are the benefits out in store for them once they walk through your door?
Yeah, well, I think first things first, the linkages is the very key thing here, right? So getting access to information, whether it's on key markets, key partners, how they can grow the business on an advisory capacity, how they can link themselves to funding certain things. We don't create the funding of our own. We don't have that. I would not abolish the fact that we might have something like that in the future, but as of today, we don't. We leverage more on all the different ministries and agencies support system. Sometimes it's very simple. When we see some SMEs come in, they don't even know certain things exist in different parts of the government, right? For our role is to make sure that they know, and they can we can create that access for them to be able to grow their businesses. At the same time, serve as how we are looking for partners, we should also be partners to them, right? To help them, to advise them, and that's always been the way I've done things, and I hope that continues in InvestSarawak. One
final question, Timothy. What's next in store for InvestSarawak?
2030 is where my immediate milestone is going to look like, right? What I want to do is really then to nail down a couple of key major investment milestones that will have a profound impact on PCDS 2030. To me, that's the immediate role in mind. And it's not something, I have to stress, that it's not done by InvestSarawak alone. It's bringing everybody else together. So we are creating platforms, we're creating common agendas among ministries and agencies, private sector, SMEs, mid-sized companies, MNCs, so that all of us collectively as a unit shares that risk and move things forward. Individually, we don't just have enough resources to move everything on our own. So I don't think it's fair to say where InvestSarawak is heading. I think collectively where Sarawak is heading will be the right analogy.
The intense competition for foreign direct investments, or FDI, from other regional countries as well as other Malaysian states means InvestSarawak has its work cut out for it. Nevertheless, there is great synergy with the Malaysian Investment Development Authority, or MIDA, to unfold Sarawak's business potential. For Sarawakians living away from home, returning has become increasingly appealing. Meanwhile, for others, Sarawak presents a beautiful frontier worth exploring. This program is brought to you exclusively by Binti Report.